Okay, so now that we have our background fully assembled, it is time to use our little templates to make the leaves that are going to be scattered around our background. So you can choose to make as many or as few as you like. The pattern obviously comes with the layout and the design instructions for a particular flower spray. But as I mentioned before, today I'm just going to focus on some of the leaves. So I have the small, medium, and large standard like petal shaped leaf. I also have a pointed leaf here. You could cut out any other shapes that you want. Something that I would suggest is if you are a lot more crafty, you could go out and pick up a leaf from the ground and kind of trace that as a template. Just know that if you pick anything with too much detail, even like this pointed leaf, you're really going to have to be careful notching the little cuts to get it to turn out if you do the turned edge, which I'm going to show you how I typically do that turned edge. But then I also think it might be really cool to just cut out the shapes and back them onto a piece of dark gray felt and then lay that out. So then you wouldn't need to worry about turning any edges and poking out any corners. You could get a little bit more tricky with your leaves if you wanted to do something like that, where you would just top stitch it maybe to a piece of felt or something that would kind of stabilize it a little bit and hold it into place. So I'm going to show you both versions of that, even though only the turned edge applique is included in the pattern, just because I fully support and encourage your own personal take and spin on the pattern, and using your creativity to make the design that you want. I hope to just have my patterns be a jumping off point that kind of launches you into your own sewing and quilting world. So here we go. Here is the turned edge applique. And then I will also show you a few that I'm going to put onto felt backing. Okay, so here we are on fast forward. I am just laying out each of the templates and using a white gel pen to trace around. You can use any kind of fabric marker that you prefer. I like the white gel pen. It's easy to see on just about every kind of fabric. So once you get them traced, to do the turn to edge applique, you need some kind of stabilizer in the back. I'm using really light, soft and stay embroidery tearaway stabilizer, but anything that you have that's pretty thin will work. We're just wanting that so that whenever we go to turn our edges, it pulls everything under, just like you would if you were sewing any other garment, putting right sides together. Then I'm just top stitching basically around the markings that I've made. And you don't have to be perfect and exact, just following the lines as best you can. Trim out, leaving about an 1/8 inch seam allowance. I pull the stabilizer away, making a little puffy pocket, snip that open, and then all you have to do is turn it inside out, or right side out actually. I use my fingers to get it turned most of the way, and then I find a dull stick really helps poke all those edges out to a nice smooth ending. To create the felt backed one, I'm basically taking the same traced template, and this time I'm cutting it out before I'm stitching it. So I'm cutting on my line. I'm going to flip that over so you can't see any of the pen and place it on top of a little felt square. Then I'm using a zigzag setting on my sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch around the outside of that. You can pin in place if that's easier for you, but with these little guys I find they're just as easy to hold with my fingers. Then I'm trimming out, and I'm leaving that same 1/8 inch of the felt around the outside of my leaf. And here you can see the two different types of applique leaves that we made. Here is the one that is just simply traced, cut, and then top stitched onto a piece of gray, dark gray felt that I felt like, was the closest match I had to the dark gray in my background square or triangles. I just used a zigzag stitch to top stitch that on to hold the edges nicely. And then I can place that anywhere I would like to get that falling leaf effect. Kind of has a shadow behind it now. Or you can do the turned edge applique, which I showed using a little bit of interfacing to help you turn those edges. And then you can place those around and top stitch those where you would conceal the backing. So you could either zigzag stitch those in place also, or you could do hand stitching. You could also hand stitch this one down. So you can see the different effect. I think I'm going to go with the felt back for this one. And I will show you what that looks like when I'm all done. Okay, so we are back on fast forward and I am going to create the rest of my leaf applique. So I'm just cutting everything out that I've traced right along the lines. If I'm doing more than one, I will fold the fabric in half just to maximize my cutting. You know, you don't need to be super precise here. I think good enough is good enough. And I'm just lining everything up and I'm going to trim them all out. And once I get everybody cut out, I'm going to mass pin them down to my backing of felt. So I'm just making sure that I'm leaving enough room around each one to work comfortably, and then also to be able to cut it out, leaving that shadow 1/8 inch edge. And then I'm just going through and I'm top stitching everything with a zigzag until I get the entire sheet of them completed, and then I will cut those out. And then once you have all of your leaves cut out and backed, it's really up to you how you want to arrange them. So I just encourage you to kind of space out colors so that you have a mix of different things around your entire canvas, basically. And I want them like, you know, you kind of want a little bit of variety. Don't go too close to the edges. And I did like having one over there. So I think I will go with that arrangement. Let me show you what that looks like completely from the top. So I think I will go with that arrangement. I have sort of a larger focal cluster in the center, and then I've spaced out the oranges and the yellows that are the brighter pop, and then that will be my sort of cascading or falling leaves. I will now adhere those down. I believe I'm going to go ahead and do that with some top stitching right inside of my zigzag. So I will go ahead and stitch those down right along the interior here and secure those in place. And then we can add some hand stitching, or you can do some additional stitching up to make it look like leaves. Oh, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just go up through the center to make it look like a stem, and then do a couple of side stitches that would make it look like the little veins of some of the leaves to adhere those down. So I'll pin everything in place, and then I'll do that top stitching. Okay, so you can see as I pull it off the machine here, what I've done is gone up through the center, come down about 2/3 of the way, and created little veins up either side to the tips, and then gone down almost to the bottom and done the same thing. So I will walk you through that stitching from overhead here. So what I'm doing is I took my pin out, placed my needle down, and I'm just going completely up through the center of the leaf to the other tip. I leave my needle down, pivot, and then I'm coming back down, not trying to stay exactly on that line. And I'm hitting about 2/3, leaving my needle down, pivoting, coming up in a gentle swoop to one edge, turning, pivoting, not trying to stay right on that line again. So you want that little bit of break in your stitching line that gives it that extra interest and looks a little bit more like a leaf vein. Every time I pivot, I'm leaving my needle down, turning my fabric, and then going up, leaving my needle down, coming down in a little bit of a swoop angle to create that veining effect of the leaf. And it can be very free form. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I think it looks nice if each one is a little bit individual, but you can see there how leaving them open and not trying to follow exactly that line actually creates a lot more of that interest. Okay, so again, remove your pin, start with your needle down and go straight up through the center, whatever line you want that to be. Leave your needle down, pivot, come down with a little bit of an angle off of your central line, pivot your fabric about 2/3 of the way down and come up in a nice little swoop. Turn your fabric again, come back to that center point, and then turn and go back up. And I'm trying to be mindful of hitting near where the opposite side is, just so they have some symmetry, right? Like leaves have some symmetry. And then I'm coming down nearly to the bottom and just doing the same thing. So you're getting one near the top where you're branching off, and then one branch off near the bottom. Not only does it secure it, but I really feel like it gives that great veining leaf effect. I encourage you to just keep working your way through the top stitching, have a little fun with it, let go of perfection, and enjoy the process. So there we have all of our leaves appliqued down. In part 3 of the Anniken Pillow series, we will work on doing some of the hand stitching and quilting. I will show a few embroidery techniques to add additional texture to your background. And then in part 4, we will put it all together and make a very cute envelope back to our pillowcase, and it'll be perfect for gifting for the holiday season. Thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Have a great day.